Welcome to Recap Quinn. The story is about a beautiful couple who seem to be happily married to each other despite the fact that they both come from a different background, as Haein is daughter of a wealthy, well-established family, and Baekhyun is from a middle-class family. When we watch them in an interview though, things seem different. They portray themselves as a contented married couple that handles everything together, but it does not seem that way. When Haein started working as an intern at her father's store, there, she met Baekhyun. As their interactions grew more frequent, Baekhyun noticed that she was having problems at work and worried that she would soon lose her job. He shared his concerns with her, which caused her to smile a little. One day, just as she is about to leave the office as it closes, Baekhyun shows up and tries to give her his umbrella because it is raining. Then, out of the blue, he confessed to her about his feelings. Although, she wasn't able to give him a reply, so he asked her to think about it. However, Haein had fallen in love with him because of his kindness towards her. She continues by explaining how he began to distance himself from her after learning that she is the daughter of the owner of Queen of Tears franchise. Though she reached out to him to express her love towards him. When he realized how much she loved him, they got married to each other. The reporters, however, continue to believe the rumor that their relationship is troubled. In the subsequent scene, we witness a group of lawyers chatting, and one of them mentions that Baekhyun wants to file for divorce from his wife and needs their assistance in acting as his lawyer. However, they fear losing their jobs as a result of Baekhyun's divorce from Haein. In a different scene, Haein is talking to her secretary, who tells her that they need to sell 100 million won more than they currently have in order to join a club for top companies. In order to get past this obstacle and get into the club, she chooses to fire the smaller businesses that are impeding her overall sales. Nonetheless, her department heads advise her that they cannot simply close those businesses because Mr. Baekhyun, their legal counsel, is preventing them from taking such action. While attending a meeting with his colleagues, Baekhyun gets called to meet with the CEO Haein at her office. When they meet, she questions him about why he thinks they should not be breaking off their relationships with smaller brands. He tells her that these brands have made significant financial investments, and if they are fired in this manner, they may file a lawsuit against the company. But Haein does not give a damn, insisting that they have to get rid of the smaller brands right away. It becomes clear from their subsequent meeting that their disagreements over how to make decisions have caused them to not get along. Then, in order to talk about something crucial, he asks her to meet with him later. After making the difficult decision to file for divorce from her and end their relationship, he receives a text from Haein pleading with him to attend the family meeting right away. His arrival is met with mockery from all sides, who are upset with him for arguing with Haein at the office and for being late and forgetting his family responsibilities. His mother-in-law starts to put pressure on him to give her a grandkid and go get an MBA degree in the USA, to which he doesn't seem to comply. Additionally, they intend to give their grandchildren their surname rather than Baekhyun's, which enrages him. He tries to talk to Haein and says he doesn't want to go to US, however, Haein sides with her parents' decisions, saying he has to follow her parents' instructions at all costs. Afterwards, she goes to teach her brother a lesson for talking bad about her husband. Baekhyun is upset about admitting his feelings to this insane woman who has destroyed his life. He is unable to even enjoy his own free time because her spies are constantly after him. He feels trapped for his life with Haein and somehow wants to get away with it. Afterwards, he goes to a therapist, claiming that his marriage has caused him to become depressed. He is fed up with his in-laws and wants to get away from them after 3 years of putting up with them. But he's scared to end their relationship because his grandfather-in-law has a nasty habit of ruining people who leave their family. He begs him to prescribe him something to make him feel better. Haein tells him they need to go somewhere when they meet at the office, but Baekhyun declines her offer and says he will not go anywhere. He travels to his hometown and meets his parents there. They are relieved to see him but taken aback by the fact that he arrived by himself without his spouse. Later, at night, he informs them that he's going to divorce Haein, given the reason that he's become too tired of dealing with her family members and feel like he has become their personal servant. His family members aren't so happy with his decision whatsoever and express concerns. His sister tries to make him understand how wrong it is getting divorced, as it will also shame his parents. But he knows they selfishly want him to stay with a rich girl for their own benefit. He goes back to Haein's house, takes out the divorce agreement, and goes to meet with Haein. But as he was about to tell her, she out of the blue tells him that she recently went to the doctor for her health checkup and found that she has only 3 months to live. Hearing this makes him feel bad for her and decided not to tell her about the divorce. He begins to cry and hugs her. Suddenly, she says that he should die together with her since he won't be able to live without her, as a terrifying joke. Nonetheless, when asked, she explained to him that she went to the doctor to check her test results, and learned that she has a condition called cloud-cytoma, which is basically numerous small tumors spread across inside of her brain nerves that cause temporary memory loss. The doctors also informs that the disease is incurable, and she has only 3 months to live. Since she has always tried to maintain her health, so it makes her blood boil that she still has the worst disease imaginable. The next day, Baekhyun wakes with a joyful mood. He is relieved that he'll be parting his way with Haein even without a divorce. When he goes to her room and gets shocked to find she's still sleeping, he checks up on her and gets scared. However, when he tries to hear her heartbeats, she opens her eyes. He suddenly gives her a morning kiss to not look suspicious. She finds him quite happy and glowing after getting to know about her disease. As they are heading to the hospital, she warns him to not let anyone find out about her disease, not even her family members. The doctor once again confirms that she has nearly around 3 months to live. However, Baekhyun insists on getting to know the exact date of her passing and Haein leaves from there. The next day, during an important meeting while Baekhyun is giving a presentation, Haein suddenly starts coughing, which worries Baekhyun. He asks others to call the ambulance immediately. However, she insists that she's fine as everyone watches them. Baekhyun has now started to take care of her more dearly, which confuses their office employees. Nonetheless, she rudely asks him not to be so dramatic since it's making others suspicious. In another scene, Haein's father tries to convince her mother to not to be harsh towards Haein and forgive her. However, she is upset with her because Suwon, Haein's brother, died because of her, which puts her in great grief and is unable to forgive Haein. And we see that Haein is listening to their conversation from afar. At the same time, Baekhyun is concerned since Haein hasn't arrived home yet. Then, he spends hours researching her disease online. When she arrives there, she finds that he was looking for a cure to her disease and had fallen asleep. He suddenly wakes up. She asks him to go to bed instead. However, Haein is confused by his sudden change of behavior since she thought Baekhyun would rather be happy than concerned for her death. But it surprises her how he's being so caring about her. She had given up on life when she first learned about her illness because no one seemed to genuinely care about her. Nevertheless, after learning that Baekhyun genuinely cares about her and wants her to survive, she makes a promise to find a cure and live. Baekhyun is rather depressed by this than being happy. The next day she goes to meet with a famous businessman, Mr. Herman, in order to make ties with him. However, she meets with her old friend, who starts taunting her. She also mocks her for appearing alone without her spouse in a party and advises her to call Baekhyun if she wants to make a good first impression. Understanding this, she quickly heads to the bathroom, calls Baekhyun, but he refuses to come as he's currently in the courtroom. Her friend once again starts making fun of her, bringing out the rumors that Baekhyun and her are not happily married and both of them getting divorced since he only married her for her money. Haein isn't having fun anymore, but she won't leave her alone. Furthermore, she makes her regret marrying Baekhyun, telling her it was a mistake to not marry Yoonun since he's the right hand of Mr. Herman, and a very successful person. When she meets with Yoonun, she tries to convince him to forget what happened between them in the past, and we learn that they used to be lovers and for some reason Haein broke up with him. Haein straightforwardly asks him to set up a meeting with Mr. Herman, to which he doesn't really seem to comply. As she was feeling alone, Baekhyun unexpectedly arrives there, informing her he quickly rushed her just to be with her. And when they meet with Mr. Herman, he compliments Baekhyun's handsomeness, which makes Haein feel proud and her friend gets jealous. Yoonun later meets Baekhyun and tries to make him jealous by telling him about his wonderful relationship with Haein in the past. However, he is confused because Baekhyun does not seem to care about it at all. But when Baekhyun finds them together talking to each other, he starts to feel extremely jealous. The next day, Haein takes Yoonun to meet with her family alongside Baekhyun. Everyone gathers together. Before they go hunting for fun, Haein's brother teases Baekhyun about how many times they have gone hunting but he has never been successful in finding anything. As they go along, Heian asks him to concentrate on his hunting so that he can impress her grandfather. But he feels that it is pointless because he does not value hunting. While exploring his area, Baekhyun runs into Yoonun. He tells him to get out of his territory and hunt on his own. However, Yoonun sees a deer up ahead and goes to shoot it. Baekhyun interrupts him and saves the animal. This upsets Yoonun. Baekhyun once again asks him to leave his territory immediately. Heian, in the meantime, is by herself in her territory when all of a sudden she begins to have hallucinations of a smog surrounding her. Unfortunately, a wild boar suddenly materializes in front of her and rushes towards her. However, Baekhyun arrives in time to save her and shoots the boar. Heian is terrified by this. Then Yoonun also arrives there. Baekhyun suddenly grabs Heian's hand and immediately leaves the scene. When she starts to feel pain in her leg, he gets worried and picks her up, which surprises her. However, they move on. When her family finds out, they are initially taken aback that a rookie like him killed a wild boar. However, Heian corrects them, telling them that he was a skilled shooter in the Marines. During this time, Baekhyun is investigating the area and finds that the boar came in from the broken fence, which seems to be someone's doing. He informs others about it, and the chairman says that he will look through the CCTV footage himself to find out who did it. When a man appears there with their dog, the chairman gets really happy to see him, and tries to buy it from him. However, he refuses to sell the dog since he's a family member to them. However, Yoonun later goes to the poor man, offers him loads of money and buys the dog from him. When Baekhyun goes to sleep in their room, she unexpectedly asks him to help unbutton her top. As he's unbuttoning her top, she suddenly asks him to stop, and requests to take a shower before sleeping. While he's showering, she begins to replay the scene when he saved her from the boar. And when he comes out of the bathroom, she gets shocked to see his sexy body. She's mesmerized by him and tries to take a sneak peek, then suddenly goes to the bathroom. She is not able to understand how her husband became so hot all of a sudden. Then he suddenly appears there. Baekhyun says he came to wipe the wet floors since she hates it. Later during the night, as they're unable to sleep, they begin chatting with each other, and he complains that the bed feels too small for them. Heian then reminds him how they used to sleep together on a single bed and cuddled while sleeping. Then out of blue, Heian asks if he wants to cuddle while sleeping. However, Baekhyun isn't able to answer her. The next morning, when Yoonun meets with the poor dog owner, who asked him to return the dog and take the money back, he agrees to it. However, he tries to kill the dog, but fortunately Baekhyun arrives there to stop him. Later that night, Yoonun calls Heian to inform her that he booked a meeting with Mr. Herman for her, which delights her mood. However, she gets an email from the doctors informing her that they haven't been able to find a cure to her illness. Knowing this, she starts to regret not being able to enjoy her life with her handsome husband Baekhyun. However, she finds this feeling unusual, so she goes to see the doctor, informing him that she has recently started having feelings for others, especially her husband, but it's very unusual for her since she has always been a cold-hearted person. But the doctor says it is not because of the illness. Rather, because she is going to die soon, so she just started to see the world in a different way. But she refuses to believe him, and says that a miracle will happen and she will survive this disease. Meanwhile, Heian's mother shows her interest in Yoonun and asks her secretary to spy on him. She goes to meet with him, and extends an offer to marry Heian since she's going to get her separated from Baekhyun. Baekhyun's friend, in the meantime, tries to convince him that it's a bad idea to leave Heian as it will drag away his luxurious lifestyle. He wants him to pretend to be an ideal husband in order to stay with the family even after Heian's death. Due to their financial difficulties, Baekhyun's sister and brother-in-law decide to pay Heian a visit. They go to the Queen of Tears headquarters and have a meeting with Heian. Initially, they try to convince her not to get divorced in a very complicated manner, which confuses Heian since she doesn't know Baekhyun was about to divorce her. Nonetheless, she immediately leaves from there because of her scheduled business meeting with Mr. Herman. However, when she arrives at the location, she finds Yoonun there instead of Mr. Herman. When Baekhyun finds out his sister visited Heian, he calls them to ask them not to disclose anything about divorce to Heian, but gets to know she has already messaged her, requesting not to divorce Baekhyun. He tries to call Heian, but she is currently in the restroom and Yoonun cuts the call, shutting down her phone. He quickly heads home but finds her room empty. Yoonun, in the meantime, is attempting to convince Heian that Baekhyun is unfit to be a husband and that he doesn't love her. pleading with her to leave him. When she arrives home with Yoonun, Baekhyun gets angry at Yoonun for making her drunk. To make him more jealous, he tells Baekhyun that they were alone together since Mr. Herman didn't show up, asking Haein to meet with him again tomorrow. He's upset that she is acting unusual, which she claims to be her new personality. She promises to live life to the fullest going forward, but for now, all Baekhyun wants is her phone to erase his sister's message. And he begins to look for it, but she already has the phone with her. When he lunges forward and throws the phone away, his actions gets Haein excited and she begins kissing Baekhyun, as he gets startled by this. When they head inside, Baekhyun tries to get the phone from her, but she thinks he is flirting with her and wants to sleep with her. She put the phone on charging and goes to take a shower. Baekhyun swiftly comes inside, grabs the phone, and upon unlocking the phone he deletes the message successfully. However, before he can leave, Haein sees him. She's surprised to see him in her room. He claims to not being able to sleep and wanted to see her. She gets surprised by this and starts laughing. Then, she asks him to sit down with her and talk with her. But he's clearly not in the mood and leaves the room immediately. The next morning, when he sees her drinking orange juice recommended by Yoonun, he gets jealous and asks her if he should make her a tea instead. She quickly notices something and moves towards him, which makes his heart pound vigorously. Nonetheless, it was just a feather. As they are ready to head to the office, Baekhyun finds her looking gorgeous, so he compliments her, which puts a smile on her face. Later, when he saw her tripping, he screamed loudly and ran away into a corner to hide from them, where he had to buy a pair of shoes to avoid looking suspicious. He gave the shoes to Haein as a gift, but she did not like it because she had a lot of expensive shoes already. Baekhyun said it was best for her to wear comfortable shoes rather than high heels for her safety. Later, he sees her meeting up with Yoonun once more. His colleague finds it suspicious that Yoonun and Haein have been meeting each other so oftenly. Both Yoonun and Haein head to meet with Mr. Herman. Before she meets with him, Yoonun tells her about Mr. Herman's secret affair, which she uses to make a deal with him as per her own terms and conditions. Meanwhile, Baekhyun is out with his friend, and buys peanut cake with Haein. Suddenly he gets a message from Haein, asking him to immediately come home as she has good news for him. His friend thinks that Haein has decided to name all her assets to Baekhyun. However, when he arrives at home, he gives her the peanut cake, and receives the news that a cancer center in Europe claims that they can cure her illness with over 50% success rate. She is so happy by this. However, Baekhyun is devastated. He's afraid that if her illness is cured, he will have to suffer and live like a peasant for the rest of his lifetime. The next morning, when he finds Yoonun at their house with Haein, he gets jealous of him. However, they claim to have been having an important meeting. But he still doesn't trust Yoonun with Haein, as if he really loves Haein. When she goes to get coffee for them, he goes after her, and shows his jealousy by reminding her the time when Yoonun was touching her hair. He asks her not to let any men touch her hair like that. When he vents to his friend about this, he tries to convince him that he should just let them fall in love with each other and get a divorce. However, Baekhyun cannot seem to imagine Haein with Yoonun. Afterwards, when Haein's brother tries to start a business with Yoonun, Yoonun swiftly declines his offer, so their mother meets with Haein at her house. She claims that it was her who told Yoonun not to do business with her brother. However, she doesn't remember anything like that ever happening, but she feels dizzy. Luckily, Baekhyun stops her from falling down, and asks his mother-in-law to leave immediately. Baekhyun is also angry at her for not letting her family members know about her illness, but Haein says that her family had already lost a child, and she can't see them in depression anymore because of her. Meanwhile, Yoonun is planning to overthrow the chairman Hong so that he can take over the Queen of Tears. When Haein encounters a rude customer making a ruckus in her mall, she goes to confront him. For behaving badly with her employee, she calls the police and gets them arrested with multiple charges. When Baekhyun calls his mother, he learns that Haein is visiting his parents' house, which gets him worried, and he immediately departs. As she's looking around Baekhyun's room, she finds an old iPod in the drawer, to which she starts listening to when a kid suddenly sits beside her. He asks who is she since he has never seen her. But when she claimed to be Baekhyun's wife, the kid gets happy to learn that she's his rich auntie. He then asks her to let him have a ride in her expensive car. She asks the driver to drive him around. However, upon returning, something begins to happen to her, and all of a sudden she finds herself in the middle of nowhere. When Baekhyun arrives at his house and finds everyone having a feast, he tries to call her, but she doesn't answer, so he goes to look around and finds his iPod on the ground. Worried, he goes to look for Haein and spends hours searching for her all over the town. Meanwhile, she's walking alone by herself when fortunately Baekhyun arrives there. Firstly, he shows his anger, asking her reasons to come all the way here to his hometown as he shows his concerns for her safety. However, she claims to be having a normal walk and asks him to not treat her like a patient. When he walks away from there, she calls out to him. Crying, she tells him the truth that she doesn't remember how she got lost as he looks at her horrific condition. She starts to cry, which melts his heart, and he gets to hug her tightly. And he also starts to cry for her miserable condition.